to the Office of Outdoor Recreation. We're just one of the other groups within that department. I am from Maine. I grew up in Freeport and still live in Maine over in Raymond.
Thank you, Abby. Kate, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Kate. I'm a sustainability coordinator over at the Nonantum Resort in Kennebunkport. I did the my previous internship through them back in 2022, and then I also did a fellow program with them through UNE where I went to school back last year as a sustainable events fellow, and now I'm here as a sustainability coordinator.
And finally, Max.
Yeah, thanks, Ava. And I appreciate the invitation today. My name is Max. I'm the privacy program coordinator here at Bangor Savings Bank. Previously, I was an intern in the information security program and then our IT department before finally landing myself in our compliance department, run the privacy program here at the bank. Just a shout out in the chat, you might see Hammy. She's the one who brought me onto the bank, and one of our interns too. I think Logan's in the chat, so welcome.
Yeah, it's great to see your guys' fan clubs came out. All right, and we would love if all of you could talk about the transition from your intern position, what you were kind of doing as an intern, and how you kind of got from your internship to a full-time hire and how that happened and what the timeline was like. And I guess we could just go in order. Abby, if you would like to start.
Yeah, sure. I didn't mention this part earlier, but I was actually an intern back kind of in the early days of COVID, 2020, 2021, with the Maine International Trade Center. I was an intern. And then the following summer, I did the Innovate for Maine program through the University of Maine and was actually paired with the Maine Aquaculture Innovation Center. So two very different summers, but both very cool and much more virtual than my work is now. So as for what I'm doing now, I actually manage the Trade Center's internship program that we have. And it's really cool. Within this organization, we've had an internship program for 30 years almost. So it's very much a tradition and something that the whole team loves and contributes to. Um, I'll end with kind of the transition. So there were quite a few years between when I was an intern myself and now when I manage the internship program. I definitely did not go straight from the internship into this role. I had other internships within Maine, worked abroad for a little while, and then came back once there was a full-time position available. And I think that patience really paid off and kind of added on to the skills that I developed during the internship. So yeah, I'll end there for now.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing. And Kate, would you like to go next?
Yeah. So like I said before, I did the Nonantum's internship back in 2022 when I was going into my senior year of college. Originally, I was just looking for an internship, and this one happened to pop up. Before, when I was doing it, it was more their traditional internship where you would go in, go through the different departments, and do a final project. So it was mainly geared toward hospitality majors. But luckily, they accepted me as a sustainability and business major. And my final project was a sustainability analysis of the entire resort, where I was able to gain knowledge going through each of the departments. Then after my internship, I graduated college, and I heard about UNE starting this sustainability fellowship program. So I applied, and the Nonantum was one of their participants. So they hired me again as their fellow for the summer, where I was a sustainable events fellow and helped make their events more green and tried to do better practices there. And finally, after that, kind of the transition in my role now, I ended up proposing a sustainability coordinator position to them. It's a first of its kind role there. They've always been pretty green and had initiatives before I got there, but they hadn't had one person focused on that. And yeah, that's where I stand today.
All right, awesome. And last but not least, Max, we would love to hear your story.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a roller coaster, kind of similar to what Kate was talking about, where this is like a new position that I joined. But I'll take you back last summer. I was an intern at Bangor Savings Bank in the information security department. I was pretty embedded in their team, and I got very familiar with my manager and all the other analysts. And towards the end of the summer, I started to realize, I really wanted to stay on at Bangor Savings Bank. And after, if you ever get a chance to talk to David Pease or really Hamey, they're big about your personal brand, marketing yourself as much as possible. And so I just kind of started to do that. I started meeting with the director of my team, and I was just saying, I really love it here. I'd really like to stay on. I started looking for different opportunities at the bank where, they could have a holdover intern, and eventually found that in our IT department, they were kind of behind on life cycles, life cycle replacements, which is kind of like replacing the company's laptops for all of their employees. And I talked to IT and I said, hey, bring me on as an intern for the winter. I can help you with the life cycle replacements. I can replace as many laptops as I possibly can, and just keep me here. Do whatever you can. So IT went for that. I joined their team and started kind of a new internship. While I was kind of waiting for a new position to open up that really made sense to me. And then towards the end of the year, around December, there was a privacy position that was posted on the job board. And I quickly snatched that up, applied for it, met with our compliance director, talked to him about the position. I really made sure to know like what my skills were and how I could apply them to, this new role. And he was all for it. So I started just around the first of this year, this new role as the privacy program coordinator, and I've been loving it ever since.
That is awesome. And all right, our next question is Max, you touched a little bit upon it, kind of talking about some of the skills you really enjoyed and how you felt you could see yourself working full time for Bangor Savings based off of what you were doing in your internship. But for Kate and Abby, what kind of made you feel as though the position and company you were working for as an intern was a good long-term fit for you? And please share any specific examples. And Max, if you have anything further to say too, feel free.
Go ahead, Abby. I saw you go on mute first.
You were unmuted first. It's all good. Continue
Um,
the story, Max.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I've worked at a lot of other companies, so I like to say I can see a good manager and a good team. Like you just know when you have that kind of respect and you have a good relationship. So that's what really made me want to stay on at Bangor Savings Bank, just because I really liked everyone here, and I felt like I was still learning, and I felt like it was a really cool industry to be a part of. So those are the types of things like that made me know like I really wanted to stay here. Go for it, Abby.
Okay, awesome. Um, let's see. So this was, like I said, during the early COVID days, so everything was virtual. It's a little harder to get to know uh, an organization's culture and the whole team that way. But one thing that was really beneficial that I is a tradition that I still have our interns do to this day, is having individual career conversations with each of the staff. Our team is only about 10 people, so that's manageable. But at the beginning of the internship experience, we have like 30 to 45 minutes where the student hosts a career conversation with the staff members to say, hey, how did you end up here? What should I know about your position here? How can I be successful here? That sort of thing. And during that kind of COVID summer, that experience was really valuable, even though it was on Zoom. Um, and to be in an organization that has each staff member take the time to do that says something. Not all organizations have a culture that are like that. That's like that. Let's see. Another thing, I was actually in a master's program at the time of the internship, so I was a little bit um, older. And then in the fall, once the internship program had ended, for one of my classes, I was asked to pick an organization to kind of do a case study on and to work with. And I asked the trade center, I said, to the president actually, would you collaborate with me on this? And could we meet, I don't know, twice a month to talk about XYZ for the project I was doing? And he said yes to that, which again, not every leader does say yes to that sort of thing. And not every, even like middle manager would say yes to that sort of thing. So I think those two examples really shaped how I perceived the organization's culture, and it's cool to be able to be here now and to help kind of continue that culture with students today.
Yeah, that's great to hear about both of you feeling like you had a lot of support from your managers in your team. And I think that is something that is super special about a lot of organizations and businesses in Maine, just from the companies and supervisors I've met. So that's awesome to hear. And now, Kate.
Yeah, so kind of similar. Pinot Anthem was welcoming from the start. Like I said, I wasn't a traditional hospitality major, but they still accepted me into their program anyway, which I was really grateful for, and it ended up turning into something great. But some examples, I guess, to show that. They really, like similar to Abby said, they act on ideas. Last summer when I was doing my fellowship, I was like, okay, I'm a sustainable events fellow. How can I gain the most out of my experience? And so in the beginning, I decided to go to my manager and was like, hey, would it be okay if I hosted the end of the year sustainability showcase event here at the resort to not only immerse people in the experience, but also highlight what I've done throughout the summer in my presentation? And just like that, she was like, yes, oh my gosh, that's perfect. So I just really love how everyone's so welcoming. And especially now being in this role, a lot of the staff throughout the resort has come to me with ideas and really seems to support not only the green initiatives, but just my role in general. So it's really awesome to see. And it's really fun working there on the water.
That is great. All right. Well, you all talked about what you kind of enjoyed about your time as an intern, and I'm sure that there are a lot of interns who are feeling like they really like their company, love the people, really like the work that they're doing and aligns with their goals. And how did um how did you guys communicate that you were interested in a full-time position, and how should interns communicate this to their organization? Max, let's start with you.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a great question, and I'm really excited to answer it because, I was an intern, and I remember, July, I kind of felt like I was waiting around a little bit and hoping like someone would come to me and say, "Hey, Max, we really want to keep you on," but you just can't wait for that opportunity. You really have to go search out those opportunities, and you have to be prepared to be a little selfish and market yourself. And I look towards some of the interns we've had in the past, and a lot of times the managers aren't really even aware that they do want to stay on. So my greatest piece of advice would be make sure everyone you're having conversations with, you let them know like you're interested in staying here. They'll help you out. They'll be looking out for different opportunities for you, but you really just have to, bring it up in your conversations with your manager when you meet with them and just say, hey, what can I be doing to look for different opportunities here where I work?
Thank you. That's really good advice. And I think that sometimes it can feel a little scary to kind of like put yourself forward like that and kind of feel like you're asking for something. But our first webinar, which was getting the most out of your internship, we had one of our panelists give the same advice. Like, if you're interested in future opportunities or a full-time position, be clear and be adamant about what you are looking for. And Kate,
Definitely.
yeah. And Kate, do you have any advice on this?
Pretty similar to Max. When I was communicating my full-time position, I created a formal proposal for it, with details on why it's important and why I would add value to the resort. After my internship with the full-time position, it was something that the resort had valued for a long time, the sustainability piece, but there, like I said previously, there wasn't one person. So yeah, similar to Max, I would just say really put yourself out there and make it clear that you want this because you're never gonna know unless you ask. It can be intimidating, definitely, but yeah, you just won't know until you ask.
Yeah, that is great. Thank you. And obviously, asking and putting yourself out there can be a lot of interns. And a question that I have for the three of you are what are some mistakes that interns may make when trying to communicate that they're interested in pursuing a full-time position? Yeah,
Ha-
Max, why don't you
yeah,
go
I'm
first?
happy to take it first again. So yeah, obviously the one I just mentioned, staying quiet. You don't want to stay quiet. Always be talking about yourself and your ability and your skills. I think one of your greatest skills that you have at this point is you've already been at your company for 2, 3 months. So you're very familiar with how the company works. And that's something companies very value a lot. When they look at hiring outside candidates, that's always a burden to have to train them up. So you already have that level of training, and you should be marketing that as well. You should tell people, I've worked in this department, I know how this works. You should really bring me on, try to hire me. I think I'd be a great for this opportunity or that opportunity. So don't be afraid to bring that up when you're looking for other positions.
That is great. Abby, why don't we turn to you?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing that came to mind when you asked that, Ava, was actually assuming that if you don't get an offer or it's not an immediate yes, that it's a no forever. If I had said at the end of my summer, hey, I'd really like to stay here, they would have had to say, Abby, we have no openings. We're a team of 10. And I think for a lot of students, Maine is made up of small businesses. So if there's not an immediate opening, it's just not an automatic no. Timing is everything. Um, Also, I think putting yourself in your manager's shoes, are you the type of intern that's really reliable and that they could bring to any meeting? I think actions can also say that you want to stay or want to be referred to another department or organization. Yeah, the more adaptable and professional students are now as an internship manager, the easier it is for me to picture them being full time, whether it's at our organization or recommending them to another. Like the Trade Center works with so many other partner organizations and companies that even if we couldn't hire a student within our internal team, the number of people that I could refer them to is high. So I think that's another final piece of advice I would give is even if it's not with the immediate team, the likelihood that they know someone in Maine who's hiring is very high. The numbers are in our favor, 1000%.
That is super great advice and something we always try to emphasize at all of our MCC events that that's the beauty of making these connections to employers that so many people are willing to help you and will probably know someone that you could be interested in working with and they are going to take the word of someone that they know versus just a random application. So thank you for that advice, Abby. And Kate, we would love to hear from you on this.
Yeah. I would just say not building on relationships during your internship would be a kind of a mistake that you interns could make just when trying to communicate that you're interested and using those relationships. I know throughout my internship, building relationship with my manager was super important, not only with her, but also with the other managers and all the other departments, because then now I'm able to work much easier with them when I'm trying to communicate projects, or if they have ideas, they're bringing me ideas, I'm bringing them ideas, and we're able to collaborate better, a lot better. So I would just say building relationships and strengthening those throughout your time.
All right, awesome.
Ava, I have just one more point before we go off this question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
I think another thing that I found myself doing is I have a pretty specific degree in computer science, and I'm sure some of you are working to maybe like a marketing degree or a business degree, and don't let that pigeonhole yourself. Just because that's something you're going to school for doesn't mean you can't apply those same skills in a different field or position at your company. Like I now work in compliance, and I don't ever do any coding, but I can still take a lot of my background from my degree and apply a lot of those skills to what I'm working on now.
No, definitely. It's all about kind of having a diverse skill set and also being open to new opportunities.
Right.
All right. Well, Congratulations, you got the offer for a full-time position. We are kind of wondering, what does the transition from an internship to full-time look like? And were there any challenges that you weren't expecting? Abby, I'd love to start with you on this one.
Yeah, I think my theme is math in my answers here. A 40-hour week is long. And when you're not in a school setting where someone's saying, like, okay, by this week, you'll have this, this, and this done. If you're in an organization or a company where, you're expected to get your work done, but no, there's no like project deadline or syllabus or like test date or midterms or end to the semester. Um, Time management was a skill that I had to learn pretty quickly. And luckily, like I had had part-time jobs and internships. But 40 hours is just different. And I think from the beginning, I wanted to have a lot of freedom there and spend my time in kind of different ways each week. And in most cases, I'm able to do that, which is something I value. Also, I think the academic setting is so different in the sense that you're kind of told what to do. And in a professional setting, if you wait for someone to tell you what to do, you're missing something. um, so yeah, I think going from kind of taking instruction to taking initiative is a bit of a transition, but one that I really liked. And my key there was just collaboration. I had bi-weekly meetings set with our marketing director. I had monthly meetings set with XYZ partner. And they truthfully helped teach me how to do my job and said, last time we had someone in this position, they did this, this, and this. And I loved that they did this and didn't love that. So that was really helpful.
That is awesome. And Max, we would love to hear from you on this too.
Yeah, so the transition, I think for me it went smoothly, but there are definitely things that you need to, pick up on, corporate culture or whatever company that you're working for is a lot different. Like Abby was mentioning, there are some just norms you have to kind of get used to. And the internship gives you a really good opportunity to make mistakes without, significant consequences. You can make those mistakes, you can learn how to operate in this new kind of world outside of school. So once you kind of get used to that, you'll be ready, but definitely, holding yourself accountable, better time management. You really have to, lean on your note-taking abilities and all of your meetings. You should be taking some kind of note. That's always helped me a lot. But other than that, I think Abby gave a great answer.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it can definitely be quite different from an internship. And Max, I have another question for you. What are some steps that students can take to facilitating turning their internship into a full-time offer before they graduate? So let's say they're going back to school after this, but are interested in working full-time after they graduate.
Yeah, make that known. You might not think that your organization is flexible to, people who are in college or, have to go back and finish up another semester or two, but a lot of times they really are. They really like graduates, and they'll be ready to pick you up right after you are done with school. So keeping those relationships, one way you could go about that is, getting a mentor at your institution if they offer that, and just someone to like stay in touch with when you're back at school. Check in with them once a month and say like, what else can I be doing differently? What skills should I be working on before I graduate to better prepare me for, working at your company? The other big thing is, constantly be checking the job board at your organization if you do have one. Just seeing when roles kind of open up. Sometimes, the person you're working under may not be aware of all the new different types of positions. So you really need to be checking that every week just to see what's out there.
Yeah, that is great advice. Thank you. All right, I think we are going to do one more question for the panelists, but if people have questions for the Q&A, I see we already have one, so please feel free to keep on pouring those in. All right, a question that I have for the three of you are, what skills from your internship did you find most valuable in your full-time role? Kate, let's start with you for this one.
Sorry. Kind of similar to what Max said earlier, but when I was doing my internship, going through each of the departments, using those skills that I learned there that I may not have originally thought like, hey, this could apply to my role today, but using those now. So like with housekeeping, using my attention to detail and learning how to stay organized throughout the rooms. In marketing, I was able to learn how to best communicate information to different audiences, such as guests, staff, the community, whoever. So it's really helped me, like leaning on those different departments and all those different kind of roles that I had, whether it's through this internship or a previous job that you've had. It may not seem like some of the skills apply, but they definitely do, and they definitely help build your career in some way.
Perfect. Max, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit, but note taking was a huge skill. So whenever you're in a meeting or you're meeting with someone, pull out a couple notes because you never know when you'll want to go back to those. So having some kind of system where you're taking notes has been a huge help for me. Another thing I probably abused more than anything when I was an intern was using that intern card to go and meet with various directors at your organization. Just saying, reaching out and saying, "Hey, I'm an intern here at the bank. You mind if I just sit down with you for 30 minutes to connect and learn about your journey here?" I still use that even though I'm not a intern today. But never be afraid to, just try to talk to people. People love talking about their job and how they got to that point. So it's a great way to get your foot in the door and start building some relationships.
All right, and Abby, let's hear from you.
Yeah, so a couple of things. I kept track of the projects that I worked on so that by the end of the summer, I had a log of, gosh, what did I do from June to August? And who did I help? And what hurdles did I overcome? Um, and that not only helped with, figuring out how to make a blurb for LinkedIn, but also for job interviews in the future to be able to say, you know, I I accomplished this and struggled with this, but overcame it. And I still keep track of my projects and my wins, even in the position that I'm in now. And I'm really glad that I kind of set that habit. Also, coming up with annual slash quarterly goals for myself. Sometimes in classes, you have like a course objective or a learning objective or that sort of thing. But regardless of what the organization is doing, I think about in December what I want to achieve by the following December, and kind of set like work resolutions, if that makes sense. And I don't always hit them, but having some sort of strategic direction, I think, makes a big difference. And, those habits are noticed by coworkers or leaders in the organization. So, yeah.
All right, well, thank you. I think those are great, and those are also great skills that interns, even though internships are coming to a close, these last 2 weeks matter more than anything as interns are wrapping up on their final projects and events. So, good advice to stick with. All right, we are going to start answering some questions. Kate, I believe this first question is for you. Somebody is asking, what are some of the sustainability practices that you've brought to the No Nantum?
Yeah, so I would say recently we had open farm day at the resort. We partner with Black Rock Farm right down the road from us, and we've been partnered with them since 2022, but it was essentially just a day where people can come, check out the farm, have fun. Um, there was no RSVP, so I didn't really know what to expect, if we were going to get one person, if we were going to get 200 people, what the day was going to be like. But luckily, it was super successful. I set up crop bingo round, so a lot of the kids enjoyed that. Similarly, at the resort, we are disposing of our uniforms, but an employee came to me and was like, "Hey, would love to not just throw these in the trash. How can we dispose of them in a more green way?" So I am now working with a company called Retold, recycling, where you can send off your old clothes and they can either ship them off to donation facilities or textile recycling facilities. And then I've also just been working with different departments, seeing what their needs are, with housekeeping, seeing what new products we can use. We use Clean the World to donate our soap, so trying to set up a hygiene kit making event for people in need. So, yeah, those are just a few of many to come. Also started a green team. I also didn't know how many people were going to come, but had a good turnout for that as well. And we're going to start doing beach cleanup. So, yeah, it's been really rewarding seeing everyone wanting to participate and supporting the cause.
Yeah, those are some really cool projects. Thank you for sharing. All right, this next question can be for anyone who's interested. So for those of you who shared that you had mentors during the internship, did you find a mentor during the internship or after you transitioned to a part-time or full-time employee?
Yeah, I can take this because I have a great mentor and I love to brag about her as much as possible. But yeah, during my internship, here at the bank, we do have a kind of more formal mentorship process. I'm sure other companies it doesn't work that way, but I really started to think, it'd be a good idea to have some kind of career coach, mentorship, what have you. And I was really purposeful in who I wanted as a mentor. I looked kind of outside my department, and I really wanted someone who was a great leader. And I approached our director of marketing, um, and I was super nervous about it, but I just straight up asked her, "Is like, hey, would you mind being my mentor? I'm new to the bank. I'm still trying to learn about how things work here." And she was like, of course, I'd love to be your mentor. So towards the end of my internship, I started meeting with her. I would say like monthly, sometimes it was bi-weekly. And it was just a really great opportunity for me to talk about all the problems I was having at the bank, like just learning about everything, those kinds of problems, like how do I go about making a new policy? Who should I talk to about doing this kind of things? And she offered me some great direction on how I should take things. When I was talking about transitioning to a full-time position, she offered me a lot of advice on how I should go about that, how I should conduct myself during the interviews, and even like uncomfortable conversations, like how do you talk about salary, right? That's always, no one really knows how to do that. And I didn't when I was kind of going for my first position here. So I'm a huge advocate of finding a mentor, even if you're still an intern for another 2 weeks, still trying to find someone at your institution that you really think of as a role model is a great opportunity to have a mentor.
Perfect. Thank you, Max. Um, Another question that we have is, and I think this is a really good question, can you ever be too pushy when asking about a job opportunity for when you graduate? And if that is true, what are some examples of being too pushy? Yeah, Abby, go for it.
I think you definitely can be too pushy. Yes, the answer is yes. Maybe all caps. But I think if you're feeling really attached to one outcome, like my summer is a failure if I don't end this with a job, and that feeling is being conveyed to the person you're asking if there are openings to, there are just other ways to approach it. Like, if kind of like what I was saying with timing, even if it's a no now, might it be a yes at some point? And also, are there creative ways to stay connected? Like, is there another organization or is there a company in our case that we know of that might be hiring? So again, like if you were pigeonholed into, okay, after my internship, I must get a job on the exact team that I'm interning with, that may not work out super well for you. Also thinking about things in terms of your manager. So if you know this is a 10-person team and there are currently 10 people and someone's not retiring and there's not room in the budget to add another person, some of it's just resource constraint. And the person, even if they want to hire you, couldn't. I think Kate's approach with proposing a position and answering some of the, well, what about this? And what would you work on? And why do we need one? Um, that's that's a really great way to approach it because you're kind of cutting to the chase and answering some of the questions that they may come to you with. And that manager could then go to their manager. And instead of them having to know the answer to like, why do we need this? We've never had it. You've helped fill in some of those gaps. So yes, you definitely can't be too pushy.
Perfect. Thank you. Max, did you also have something to say for this question?
Yeah, I was going to build on that because Kate gave a really good response. And I go back to a quote by Franklin where failing to prepare is preparing to fail. If you come prepared, and you list out all of the things that make you a great intern and that will make you a great hire, that makes your manager's job so much more easy, so much easier to market you to, their management and create a position for you. So I think that's a great point by Abby and Kate.
That's great. Thank you. All right, our next question. Somebody is sharing that they were offered a full-time position at their internship, but it's not what they want to do for a future career. Do you think that it's beneficial to stay with that company to further relationships and gain broader knowledge? Should this person accept the position and still be on the lookout for a different job that's more focused on what they studied and what they want to do as a career?
I feel like that really depends on the type of person and the type of position. If it's not your ideal career, but it can gain you the skills you need for your career, I would say definitely go for it because you can use that in your resume and still be looking for that future job, and then leverage those skills when you are looking for a different position. Um, and if it is a full-time position and can supplement you for now, then that's great. But if you're not going to be happy in the role for the time being, then I would probably say to look for something else.
Perfect. Thank you, Kate. All right, another person is asking, what are the key aspect ratios which we interns should monitor during our transition phases? I'm not exactly sure what this question means. I don't know if someone else is it a thing or savings question?
No, I'm not sure what they mean by aspect ratios. If they want to throw another comment or question, just clarifying. But if you're thinking about like what should you monitor from like about yourself, kind of like what kind of different metrics you can pull out from your time as an internship, always be thinking about the progress that you've made. Always be thinking about the project that you're currently working on and what you helped achieve for the company. And those are always great little resume builders. If that's the kind of metric they're thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of building off that and similar to what Abby did during my fellowship, my mentor had me write down all the projects I worked on throughout the summer. So definitely bringing those up. And if you want to propose a full-time position, if it's not available, I would definitely say, hey, I have experience working on this project or doing this responsibility. So yeah, just kind of building off what Max and Abby had said, but I
Yeah,
definitely think it's important to promote what you've done and the skills that you've gained throughout your internship.
I mean, I don't know if anyone else is like me, but I will forget everything I've done in the past 6 months. So if you're not writing it down while you're in the weeds and working on that project, you might forget like, oh yeah, I'm really familiar with this system or that system. So really taking those kinds of notes while you're in the weeds of a project help a lot.
Yeah, kind of adding on to that, Max. I remember last summer during my internship, I would write down each week some bullet points of what I was working on because I had a lot of like smaller projects, and it was a really helpful way to build my resume at the end.
Yeah.
All right, we have one more question that is, what should you do when your internship can only hire you part-time, but you need full-time employment?
I can take it unless someone else wants to.
Yeah, Max,
Um,
go for it.
Yeah, I would say, the job market is tough out there. I think we all know that. Right now, it's really hard to get into places externally. Right now, you have a ton of relationships under your belt from working in this internship. So you really got to think about in the present what kind of opportunities you have. And if you only have a part-time opportunity, it might be best for you right now. That doesn't mean it doesn't turn into a full-time position later on down the road. But if you have a great position ahead of you and they're only offering it to you part-time, that could just be the best that they can offer you right now. Abby touched on it. You got to think about it from your manager's perspective. What do they have the budget for? And I would say, if you can make that part-time position work, go for it. But if it doesn't make sense to you and you need something more full-time, then of course, you got to make that decision.
So, okay, we have another question. Yeah, Abby, this one is for you. So we know that you worked abroad and came back to the US. So how did you navigate that process?
Yeah, so the end of my grad program required some sort of internship or co-op or just professional experience. And I said, I'm going to get paid, which means it will probably be an entry-level position of some kind or a paid internship. And it's going to be international because my degree was internationally focused. And so I had a mostly entry level short term contract position from September to December. And then I renewed that, or they renewed me from January to May. So there was kind of a natural end date to my position in Costa Rica. And then I saw a job opening with the organization I'm with now and came back. And yeah, the transition was good. One of the reasons I moved back to Maine was I really wanted a better work-life balance. My family's here, my friends are here. I wanted to have a life outside of work. And my job abroad was great, but I was very focused on work there during that time. So yeah, but I'm really glad I had that experience because it was also a startup environment. So I was used to like a level of chaos on top of a level of chaos of living in another country.
What country was it, Abby, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, it was Costa Rica.
Oh, Costa Rica. Sorry, I missed
It's
that.
pretty cool.
All right, well, that is awesome. All right, another person has asked, beyond reference letters and noting your projects, what are some steps you can take during your internship to really enhance your resume and experience?
Um, I would just mainly say from earlier, like building on those relationships with not only your manager, but the staff there, and also networking when you can. I mean, the MCC program is really great because you connect with people from different businesses and stuff like that. But also I know doing my or fellowship last year through school, I was able to also connect with other environmental organizations who I hadn't heard about before. So it was really awesome. I would say if you have those opportunities or find networking events, I would definitely say jump on them because then you can really benefit from learning through others.
Awesome. All right, somebody says that they have an internship that continues through the school year, but has a different internship lined up for next summer. How should this person go about asking to come back after their next internship as an intern again?
You want to go for it, Abby? Because I'm happy to.
Go ahead, Max.
I was just gonna say, there's a couple of ways you can approach this. I would say in a way where you're going to try this other internship opportunity and really highlight some of the skills that you think you're going to get from that other internship and how you might be able to bring that back into your current internship. But don't be I mean, I wouldn't plan too far in advance because you could really enjoy that next summer internship and you might want to work for that company. You just never really know. So if you are set on staying at your current internship, that's how I would kind of market it, is by just saying, I'm going to go to this other company, learn the skills, and try to come back.
All right, Abby, do you also want to give your input on this question?
No, I was thinking back to the last question actually about other ways to enhance, but I'm sending us backwards now.
That's
Just really
okay.
quick. So I think some of the project work is really important. The letters of reference are really important, but also how you work. So whether you're familiar with the Microsoft suite, for example, whether you have experience in a CRM or a client relationship manager, or management software system, whether you feel comfortable facilitating meetings or not. All of those skills are super important, even though they're not project work that you did. So any chance you have to talk about that, to include that on your resume, the how you work is just as important as what you work on. So yeah, because I think that also affects your comfort level in an interview setting or meeting with different people who are deciding whether or not they should hire you beyond just what's on your resume.
I completely agree with that. Thank you, Abby. It's like all the work you're doing at your internship is so important, even if you don't necessarily think it is. And asking your manager about that can be a great way to kind of figure out what you should highlight. Um, Somebody asked, what did you learn the most from your internship? Whoever is most interested in answering this one, feel free.
I'll go first and let the others think about it. I think for me, it was collaboration. I was really surprised by the level of collaboration. And I don't think it's just at BSB. I'm sure it's at every organization. But, you know, when we're in school, occasionally you have a group project for a class every now and then. But certainly in the role that I'm in now and during my internship, there was so much collaboration, working on different projects with different teams, different people. So learning about how, you know, to manage those types of projects and relationships was probably the thing I took away most from my internship. That, and we just had a really fun cohort and we all, you know, we had some great memories there, but definitely collaboration.
Awesome. Yeah,
Kind of
Kate.
on the opposite end of that, I would say for me, it was learning more independence just because going from the internship program to the fellowship program and now this role, the internship program, there was, I believe, like 5 or 6 of us, so I had a good group of people to talk with. But then the fellowship program, I was pretty much on my own. I was working remotely for the most part, hybrid, kind of going in when I could. So it was definitely an interesting transition, and becoming more confident in my own ideas and myself was something that I kind of had to learn that, you know, my ideas are good, they are good, and um, able to bounce ideas off of mentors and stuff like that, but also just trusting myself a little bit more.
Awesome. All right. Um, Somebody asked if you really enjoy your job in the community culture, but want to pursue another department or role, how would you approach this?
I'll take it because this, I mean, this is kind of like what happened to me. So I was pretty into the more technical side of the company. I was in the IT department, and the position that I really wanted was in a completely different department, our compliance department, and it's just as far as technical as it can be kind of thing. And so the steps that I took to approach that was when I saw the position was posted, I saw who the hiring manager was, and I just sent them a message and said, "Hey, I think I'm interested in this role. I don't know if it's a good fit for me. Do you mind if we just spend, 20 minutes and connect and talk about this role, and if you think it would be a good fit for me, and if I should apply?" So I would say don't worry about, just reaching out to the people in that team. What else? Another thing I did was I shadowed with the team I'd be working with even before I was offered the position, just to see if it was a good fit for me, because that's another big part of a new job is your team, and you really want to make sure that you can work well with them. So I did that as well. I spent half a day learning about all the various analysts' role on my team and kind of what they were working on. I got to know kind of who they were, and I really realized, this is a really good fit for me. So those are two things I would recommend: is reaching out to the hiring manager and seeing if there's any opportunity to meet with the team to see if you would be a good fit.
Awesome. All right. Somebody asked, what was the highlight of your internship experience?
I can go. We're reaching a little far back, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I think mine is pretty general. It wasn't a specific day, but realizing that there were jobs and organizations that I didn't know existed in Maine. Part of the reason I left for college and for grad school and then for work is because I wasn't convinced that Maine was where I was going to find my career. But my internship really did show me, especially on the international side, that there's a lot more going on in the state than I thought. And there are other people who choose Maine to be the place where they live and work, even though there's other choices. So yeah, that was one of the highlights and part of the reason why I wanted to leave Costa Rica to come back.
That makes sense. Um, Somebody says they really like their internship but are still in college and don't have the time to continue working. How should they maintain this relationship and connection if they want to work here once they graduate? Continued emails?
I have some ideas on this. It can definitely be hard because between this summer and next summer, when you'll actually need a job, there's a lot of time in between that. So my recommendations would be certainly. I'm not a big email person, but if you think that's the best way you communicate, certainly continue to email. You can set up regular sessions, like just month by month. Check in with your manager, maybe start calling them a mentor type of thing if you need to, and just check in with them, find out what's happening on their team, let them know what's happening in school, kind of thing. Just continue that type of relationship. If your company does any sort of events, I don't know if they're doing like a walkathon type of deal, definitely try to go to those events. Try to make yourself known as much as possible. Follow them on LinkedIn. Try to make sure you're not forgotten about, right? So just do whatever you can to keep your name out there. That way, when you graduate and that time comes around that you're looking for a job, they will know your name when they see you in the list of applicants.
Perfect. Thank you. And yeah, I think there are a lot of different ways of staying in touch. Okay.
I also, really quick, one thing that I like to do is have current students create mini project guides for the next cohort. So if you leave something behind that helps the next cohort, first of all, the manager is more likely to remember you, but also if you kind of leave a standing offer of, hey, if you have future interns who need some advice from a past intern or even want like if you want someone to do a cameo during orientation, like I'm your person. I would never say no to that. I would say yes to that every single semester for as long as they wanted, to just pop in and say hi and share a little bit about their experience. So there's also ways to give back to future use and
And
still keep yourself visible.
yeah, I have one more good point because Abby just brought it up. You're all working on these projects for your organization, so I think it's completely reasonable for you to check in a couple months and say, how is that project I left behind? Are you encountering any hurdles? Is there any opportunity there for maybe you can, because you are the most familiar with your project, right? And now all these organizations are going to try to pick up where you left off. So being there and being kind of the voice of your project can also help you keep your foot in the door.
Yeah, also there's some great advice in the chat. Anytime the employer is on your campus, make a point to connect with them at like a career or college fair, maybe ask if they'd like to get coffee, something like that. Okay, we are winding down on time. Unfortunately, I do not think we'll have time to get to all of these questions, but um oh, this is a good one. If you were to receive an extension of your internship into a job, is it okay to negotiate your pay?
I had to deal with this issue, but if Abby and Kate, you have any advice, you can go first. No, okay. So yeah, pay is always uncomfortable to talk about. It's kind of like you have to advocate for yourself. It's always just know going into it, nobody likes to talk about it. But your HR people are very comfortable with having those kinds of conversations. I wouldn't, just because you bring up pay and how much you're going to be compensated, that's never going to deter them away from hiring you, right? It's kind of like a separate conversation from the job itself. So never be afraid to bring that topic up. I would also recommend doing a lot of research on, what you need. It's like where you live. If you live in a very expensive area, obviously you're going to have a certain pay requirement, and you can bring that up as a evidence kind of for your justification kind of thing. But it's really hard. It's a very hard conversation to have. It makes me feel very awkward when I bring it up, but just know that it's normal to feel that way, and it shouldn't stop you from bringing it up.
All right. Thank you, Max. Unfortunately, I think we are kind of wrapping up on time, but I think we can probably do one more question. I got this comment actually in the chat, but what is the best way to network and stay visible when working remotely, especially in a large organization? And also, while somebody's answering this question, I am just going to drop the emails of the panelists in the chat. So if you have any further questions, please reach out to them.
Yeah, I think just because your work is virtual, if you're in the same state, if you're all in Maine, you can propose a coffee or hey, I never got to see the office. Is there any chance I could come by and have a half-hour coffee or that sort of thing? It's a lot easier to have something proposed and then for someone to be able to say yes or no versus hey, we should catch up sometime, and then it's just like dot dot dot. No one ever proposes anything.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, right? Especially with more kind of hybrid work environments. How do you stay visible over a camera or a Teams meeting? You just have to build those relationships. I think Abby had a great idea. Try to, if you can, make it into the headquarters, if you're ever in town, that sort of thing. But I still think, it shouldn't stop you from building those kinds of relationships, getting a mentor, meeting with them virtually every half hour or every month or so for a half hour. Still try to make those things and acknowledge it too. Acknowledge that, hey, this is a challenge working remotely, but would you be willing to still connect with me every month or so? Just bring that issue to the forefront.
All right. Well, that is all we have time for today. I put the emails in the chat and also the beach party link. Please come. We would love to see you. And that would be a great way to network and further make connections. And thank you so much to Abby, Kate, and Max. You guys gave such great advice. And we are so lucky to have you on our final webinar of the summer. And thank you all for joining us today. I am going to end it here, but please reach out with any further questions. Goodbye.
Thanks, Ava. Thank you.